Hey, you guys. So I wanted to come on here briefly and discuss with you this article I came across on Atlanta Black Star. Daniel Kaluuya is apparently famished on the subject of race, according to this article. He is tired, he's fatigued, and quite frankly, he is outright lassitude with race. So, if you guys don't know who Daniel Kaluuya is, he is a successful actor who has starred in numerous prominent roles. He starred in Queen and Slim. He starred in other movies like Get Out, Black Panther, and the Queen and Slim movie is a pretty recent movie. So, I'm going to go ahead and kind of read to you a little bit of the article on what he is talking about in regards to him being extremely tired of talking about race. So, it says Daniel Kaluuya said he's tired of being asked about race and doesn't like when he's expected to speak for every single black person. It's something the actor conveyed to Radio Times in an interview that recently surfaced, and he talked about just wanting to be an individual, nothing more. Daniel Kaluuya said he's tired of talking about race. So, with that being said, let me go ahead and briefly pause for a moment because I do have a little bit that I want to say regarding this. So, you all know the history of this country. We actually know the system of racial oppression and how it pertains to this world. One thing that I think we need to accept as a reality and come to terms with is the fact that race is a concept that is never going to go away. Specifically speaking, racism is never going to go away. And when the concept of race was brought into this world, the purpose of it was to create division and to ensure that a distinction is made as a way to establish the differences between people. It is the reason why every time we fill out job applications, there's a section asking what one's race is and their ethnicity. The job application doesn't care if you're human because human is a species, not a race. So I think we need to be a little bit more realistic when it comes to the politics of this world. But before I really go in on what Daniel said, I'm going to read this some more. So, moving on, it says, I'm not going to ignore that I'm surrounded by racial issues, but I'm not defined by it. Kaluuya explained, I'm just Daniel, who happens to be black. And then it says, what is there to talk about race? He added, it's just boring to me. What's the debate? I'm more of a doer. I'm just going to do what I want to do. Then it says Kaluuya's popularity shot up after being in films like Get Out, Black Panther, and recently Queen and Slim, which have all been celebrated in the black community. So, one thing I also want to say regarding this is obviously with black people, we don't get to separate ourselves from our issues or the current state of our race. Obviously, unless you've been under a rock for the past several centuries, you know that we are the most disenfranchised and one of the lowest social status when it comes to the state of the world. Other races oftentimes are told not to even associate with us because they are aware that we have been associated with negative images and stereotypes created to make us appear subhuman or that we have low worth and value. And I think Daniel is someone who is out of touch with reality a little bit. And I say this because given the fact that this world is pretty much built on race, and I feel like some of us know this, it does lead me to believe that this statement is a little bit delusional. And see, decisions are based on race because think about it. Again, I want to use this example. When you go and apply for a job, race matters. A white candidate might get a job over a black candidate because of his or her race, not his or her qualifications. A white person also is more likely to receive a larger salary in Hollywood than their black counterparts. I'm sure you guys have seen numerous stories in articles where a black celebrity might have complained about receiving a lower pay grade than their white counterparts. And that's not uncommon, it's very common. So, guess what, Daniel? You work in Hollywood and you choose the roles that you play. So, if you wish not to be portrayed as that type of actor, you can choose to decline the role. Some of what he's saying, I feel, is a little ridiculous because if you really have a sense of integrity where you don't want to be seen in that light, you don't have to say yes to every single film. In Hollywood, it's a large corporation operated through white supremacy, and it's a structural system. And it will make sure that you are always going to perceive as what they see you as. If they showed black people excelling and being successful without the dysfunction or negativity, well, then that would pose a threat to them. They will show distorted imagery of us in an effort to keep us divided, and so that an uprising will not happen. And see, it may not seem that way, but ask yourself this question. Why don't they show films like that? Why aren't there more black romance movies without it being made by Tyler Perry? Or why did it take so long for Black Panther to be made? Because in the case of Black Panther, it was a positive movie that showed black people can be unified. And even though it was a science fiction movie, look at how we invested into it as a collective. It made $1 billion within a short amount of time, and it showed black people in a positive light. And if too many movies portrayed black people in a positive light, it would inspire us to imitate fiction in which we would do things like practice effective group economics, go back to Africa and build it up, or heck, we could even create our own military. But of course, that would pose a major threat to the dominant society, so they don't show you too much of this within one setting. I feel like they showed Black Panther to simply say, hey, look, black people, we're not racist. See, we allowed you a movie that showed you positively throughout the entirety of the movie with no issues or dysfunctions, or even the typical white savior complex. Now, as we continue reading this, it says here, but the actor he said he doesn't want to be pigeonholed and be the guy who only does movies about race or the black struggle. And it also says, the British-born actor also pointed to some of his previous work as an example that he said he gets ignored because they don't focus on the character being black. The Fades ain't about race. Psychoville ain't about race. Skins ain't about race. Chat Room ain't about race. Johnny English Reborn ain't about race. But that almost gets erased. There's a narrative that is pushed, Kaluuya explained. Now, as we continue reading this, I do also want to note another thing. It says that he doesn't think that these other movies are about race. So Daniel was actually, as you kind of continue reading through the article, it says that he was reluctant to take the role he portrayed in Queen and Slim, but the thing about it is he still took it. So obviously it wasn't a problem for him to sacrifice his integrity when he made the decision, because even though he was hesitant, he still did it. So that just shows hypocrisy in that statement as well. Now, one thing I want to say as a disclaimer, I did not watch Queen and Slim because I felt as though I was able to effectively discern the movie based on the trailers and the synopsis. And this kind of told me everything I needed to know on whether or not I was going to see it. So as we get to the last part of this article, it says here, in the Lena Waithe written film, Kaluuya's character in the movie Queen and Slim, played by Jodie Turner-Smith, have a run-in with a police officer during a date, and Slim shoots him in self-defense. Yes, it's got those moments about race, but that's more of a catalyst, Kaluuya said about the film. So, I mean, I have to stop one more time, you guys. I'm sorry. But you see how he's trying to give himself the benefit of individuality, which, of course, you guys know that we do not have in our community. That's one thing you can't do, is you can't separate yourself and try to make it seem like that one or two of your movies or things that you act in is the exception, because it is not going to help you to separate yourself from any kind of race-related issues or the stereotypes that you're portrayed as. So I think that that's also a bit of another hypocritical statement he made. But then it goes on to say, I'm not a spokesperson, I'm an individual. He also stated, who's the spokesperson for white people? There isn't one. No one's expected to speak up for all white people. I'm just living my life. I'm a black man. I'm proud of it, but I'm just living my life. And honestly, you guys, I can't stand when black people do that. They try to use these scapegoat talking points to try to say, well, because white people don't do this or other races of people don't do this, so why should I be the exception? Why in our community should I be the person that's different? I just really cannot stand when it is we do that. I don't know why we do it. It could be as a form of projection. But lastly here, it says, Kaluuya also talked about those who see him as a victim because of the challenges that black people face. You may victimize me, but you will not make me feel like a victim, he stated. And if you think you can, then what sort of person are you? So that looks like, okay, so that's the end of the article. So again, another portion that I just kind of want to deconstruct here for a moment. Now, this is something I mentioned in one of my past videos. I think it was a Tyler Perry video. I told you guys about how we engage in these shaming like talking points and tactics where if we are anything but supportive. It's scrutiny and ridicule. And I feel like that's what he's trying to do here, while simultaneously trying to use this victimhood mentality to further corroborate his point. It also acts as a guilt statement when he says, then what sort of person are you? These celebrities, especially the black ones, annoy me with this type of rhetoric because you are a public figure. Therefore, your decisions will be judged by the public. So to sit here and say something stupid like, well, what type of person are you? Maybe you should ask yourself that same question. Who would you be to not expect discernment from the people who watch you? How can you expect us to support you without questioning your acceptance of these roles that you claim paint your real character as nothing more than the typical stereotype cliche that we see Hollywood uses over and over? What makes you the exception to that? And a side note, but I really get tired of black people with the same name Daniel saying these things, because if you guys recall, just last year, Daniel Caesar had a lot to say regarding black people and us supposedly being mean to white people. And I'm just over the sector of black brothers with the name Daniel who engage in this reprimandable behavior. Now, what I am saying, it may sound as though I'm speaking from a comical perspective when I said that, but I am in fact very serious when I say that this pattern is becoming tiresome in itself. Daniel Kaluuya is tired of talking about race, and quite frankly, I'm tired of people like him saying he's tired of race, because people like this are counterproductive to the progress we are attempting to make with helping our people to understand that a pervasive problem is present here. I don't hear other races of people talking like we do. Other races of people are well aware that they must portray themselves as the best possible versions of themselves, and they aren't afraid to have conversations if someone from a different race comes into their production studios. They're not going to let you upstage them in their studio because black people don't have a monopoly in the movie studio realm. So we have to go to a larger company and ask permission for a film to be funded or licensed or whatever process to greenlight a movie, because we don't like to have these conversations, and because we make emotionally based decisions and don't possess foresight, we don't understand how it is that we contribute to our own detriment when it concerns the long-term effects of our community. And someone, I guarantee, will come on this video talking about how you can't compare us to other races of people because they have some degree of power. Okay, but even though we don't have power, we do have the power to not accept roles in their production. Please do not come here attempting to make false equivalencies, because a lot of talking points that I hear are things like, well, black people were subject to slavery, or black people are the lowest on the totem pole, or black people don't support Tyler Perry. And please also refrain from making these statements. And you guys can also refer back to my Tyler Perry video for my thoughts on him. I just wonder if we choose not to have these conversations because we really don't have a solution as to how to turn the odds in our favor, and so we deflect by saying things like, I'm tired. Look, you can be tired if you want, but it's not going to make the structural system of white supremacy say, okay, they're tired, we can stop our efforts because clearly they've conceded. No, it does not work like that. It is a relentless civilian system. We cannot make progress as a race if we continue to have these conversations where they apply. So I don't want to make the video too long, but let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think we should stop talking about race, or do we need to continue on the path towards helping black people to see that race is something very real and needs to be discussed for the betterment of our people? So make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and share the video, and I will talk to you in the next one.